The first thing that we'll do is clone a release to create a new revision. We'll call that revision editing content. And this takes us to the Pages tab. Under the Pages tab, we have two submenus that relate to the pages, Sitemap View and Folder View. Sitemap View gives you a list of the pages organized by the information hierarchy. So for instance, if About Us and Contact Us were children of the homepage, we could go ahead and update that tree to display that relationship. On the other hand, the folder view shows the pages as they are laid out on disk. So here you can see that the default document, the homepage, is the index.html file in the root of the site, and the About Us and Contact Us pages are the default documents in the respective subfolders. We'll go ahead and add a couple pages. So I'll right-click on Homepage and click Add Child Page. We'll add a services section to the site. We'll make this a one column with sidebar template. And then underneath services, we'll add a few more child pages. So the first one we'll call Build. You can see so far I've had to select the template every time. Why don't we go ahead and change that template to be auto-selected for us? So for now, I'll go ahead and manually select it, and then I'll go to the Sites tab and click Configure Site and change the default page template to one column with sidebar. Here, if the web server used a different default document, we could change the default document as well. I'm going to hit Save. And now when I go back to the Pages tab and add a child page, so the next one, we'll call it Engage Users, you can see that the template was automatically selected. One other thing that you can notice here is that the page URL gets automatically generated based on the page title and the parent. So since the parent of this new Engage Users page is the Services page, the page URL pulled in the subfolder of the parent and then made Engage Users a new subfolder underneath that parent subfolder. So I'll click Add. I'll add one more child page for on-time delivery. If I click Edit Page Content, it pulls up the editor. And it also gives me a preview of the page. Now, the first thing you'll notice here is that both the breadcrumbs and the sidebar show the full site hierarchy. Why don't we change that for our services section so that for services, the services page itself will be the root of the sidebar? And why don't we also hide the home page from the breadcrumbs, because it's a little redundant. So first thing, let's click on Home Page. And if we scroll to the bottom here, under Advanced Options, we have these checkboxes that will change the functionality of those breadcrumbs and sidebars. So we can click under Homepage. I'm going to select Exclude from Breadcrumbs. And now if I open up On-Time Delivery again, you'll see that the homepage is no longer in the breadcrumbs. Also, let's make services that root of the sidebar. So I'm going to click on Services, and I'll click Hide Parents, so that when you're underneath a page in the Services section, you won't see any of the services parents. So now if I open up On-Time Delivery, here we go. Services is the root of the sidebar, and we also no longer have homepage in the breadcrumbs. Now on to editing the content. In order to edit the content, you just click on the content area and start typing. If you'd like to add a link, it's as easy as selecting the text, right-clicking and clicking the link button. Alternatively, you could click the link button in the toolbar. I'm going to hit Browse, and I'll get a list of pages in the site. You could also link to one of the items in the Media Asset Manager. To add an image, I just click the Insert Image button. If I hit Browse, I'll get a pop-up that lets me select one of the images from the Media Asset Manager. Now, here on that Media tab, why don't we upload a couple photos? So we'll just pull in a couple files from the my disk here. So I'll drag in that image, and then I'll drag 2 more images for the slideshow. I'll put these slides for the slideshow under a new folder. So I'll right-click and add folder, call this slides. Alternatively, I could click on this button here and then click add subfolder. And now I'm going to go back and just drag those images to the slides subfolder. So now we have this picture here on the root, and we have these 2 images under the slides folder. To take that new image and insert it into the page, I'm going to just double click on it and hit save. And now that image is inserted. If you go to the format menu here, there's a lot of formatting options for the text. So you can take this text, you can make it bold, underline, strike through. There are a variety of different formats here. Under the Formats menu, you can change the colors. Let's say I'll make this H2. If you want to insert bullets, numbers, you just click this button here. You can change the alignment. Next, we're going to take a look at web snippets and components. So web snippets are pieces of HTML that you can inject into the page. If you click web snippet, these are customizable by the designer. It's just HTML that you put together and you can add to the list here. So I'll add this web snippet into the page. As soon as you add it to the page, it's automatically converted to HTML. So you can go in, edit it. If your theme supports it, you'll have this material icons section in the symbols. We can add a nice icon here, for instance, for a plane. The components, on the other hand, as contrasted with the web snippets, are custom controls that are rendered based on field data. So whereas the web snippets are just HTML that gets added right into the editor, the components stay as components until they get published. So if we add a banner, it's going to stay as this banner, and you won't be able to edit it using the editor directly, but you'll need to double click on it to edit it in this pop-up window. The component is composed of fields as well as editable areas in the actual component itself. So some of the fields are image, for instance. So we can set an image. Let's pick a different one. Pick one of the slides. You can set a link, and these fields are completely customizable per component, and they're configured by the web designer. So you can learn more about how to actually create components in the web designer and developer tutorials. So here I'll add a title and body section. This component specifically has some cool features like this shadow overlay, so you can add a shadow just behind the content. So let's say you only have the content on the left half of the slide, the banner here. So you can add a shadow just over the left half and have it nicely fade out. The components also have a configuration section. So if you click configure, there are some fields that help define how that component is going to get displayed. Now there are 2 types of components. There are the one item components, and then there are multiple item components. So a banner only has one item because it only has one image and text and body combination that's displayed. But a slideshow has multiple items because a slideshow is effectively a whole collection of banners that get switched out. So we're going to add the slideshow, and here we'll add a couple banners to it. So we call this slide 1. Give it a little bit of shadow. And we'll add our slide 2. So now we have our 2 slides, and you'll notice when we go to edit that slideshow, instead of popping us right into the item editor, it first shows us a list of the items. And we can move the items around. We can change the sort order by pushing these up and down arrows. We can delete items, or we can double click to edit them. You can do some pretty advanced things with these components. So components can basically do anything that you could do in regular HTML and JavaScript. So you can even have components generate a Google map. And in some scenarios, you might even have a component insert another page into that area. So you could have some shared pages or shared page content that you would inject into multiple pages. So you can have the components perform AJAX requests during rendering, before rendering, at a lot of different hooks. So these are some pretty advanced tools. They're like the Swiss Army knife of creating this custom content in the page editor. In addition to these components, you have the page settings. So here you can configure the page properties. The page properties are also customizable per page template. So this is totally customizable per template by the designer who puts them together. This specific page template has some basic properties here. You can show or hide the title. And you can add a CSS body style, for instance. In addition to that, on the SEO tab, you can change the meta tags, the title tag, the canonical URL. On the custom CSS tab, you can add custom CSS to the body of the page, or it would alter the behavior of the elements. In the header code section, you can add custom scripts, custom links to style sheets, JSON schema data, whatever you need. This gets added to the head tag of the page. And the footer code is HTML that's inserted right before the closing body tag. Finally, we can go in and change the title by a couple places. So one, on the Overview tab, you can change the page title right here. Or you can change the page title by clicking on it directly, changing the text. When you're all done with your changes, you hit the Save button, and this gets committed to the CMS.